The scratch came in threes, deliberate, patient, the way Shadow used to signal at doors during raids. Ryan Sullivan's hand froze halfway to the whiskey bottle. His pulse hammered against his ribs, that old combat rhythm he couldn't shake even after a year of silence. But Shadow was dead. 11 months, 2 weeks, 4 days dead. He crossed the cabin floor, each step deliberate, and opened the door. The cold hit him like a fist. 50 below zero, the kind of cold that killed in minutes. Through the swirling white stood a German shepherd mother, her black and tan coat crusted with ice, 3 tiny pups pressed against her trembling legs. Then Ryan saw it, around her neck, barely visible beneath the frost, a canine collar. His breath caught. He read the worn tag. Luna, Narcotics Detection, Montana State Police. The dog that vanished 8 months ago had just traveled 15 miles through hell to find him. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. Ryan Sullivan had stopped counting the days after Shadow died. 11 months felt like 11 years, each one hollowing him out a little more. At 38, he looked 50. Gray threading through brown hair, he cut himself with dull scissors, eyes the color of winter sky gone flat. The scar on his chin, earned in a bar fight at 22, was the only thing about him that still told a story worth hearing. The cabin sat 15 miles from Whitefish, Montana, far enough that nobody knocked anymore. He'd bought it with his father's life insurance money, back when he thought isolation meant peace. Now it was just a place to wait. For what, he didn't know. Every morning he set out 2 bowls, one for himself, one for a dog that would never eat again. The second bowl sat untouched, kibble turning to dust, a shrine to failure he couldn't dismantle. Shadow's collar hung by the door on a bent nail, the leather cracked from Montana winters, the badge dulled but still readable. K-9 Unit, Montana State Police. He'd been a K-9 officer for 12 years. Good at it, too. He and Shadow had pulled off 3 major drug busts, found 2 missing children, tracked down an armed fugitive through 40 miles of wilderness. They'd been partners in the way that mattered, the kind where you didn't need words, where a glance said everything. Then came March 3rd. A drug bust gone wrong, suspect fleeing into the trees. Ryan gave the command. Shadow, track. 3 words that replayed in his head every night like a death sentence. Shadow ran. 3 gunshots cracked through the darkness. Ryan found him collapsed in the snow, blood pooling black under the moonlight. Shadow died in his arms, one final lick to Ryan's hand before the light went out of his eyes. The official report called him a hero. Ryan called himself a murderer. He'd quit the force the next day, turned in his badge, moved to the cabin. The department sent the medal in the mail. He used it as a paperweight for bills he couldn't pay. His grandmother Eleanor was the only family he had left. 78 years old, early-stage dementia, living at Whispering Pines Memory Care for $6,500 a month. She'd been Montana's first female K-9 trainer back in the 70s. Trained over 50 police dogs in her career. Now she barely remembered her own name. Ryan had $8,200 left in savings. The nursing home payment was due in 30 days. The bank had sent 3 letters about the cabin, 60 days until foreclosure. He hadn't visited Eleanor in 6 months. Couldn't face her. Couldn't tell her he'd quit, that he'd let Shadow die, that he was failing at everything she'd taught him about duty and honor. So he sat in the cabin and waited, chopped wood, ate from cans, avoided mirrors. Until tonight, when something scratched at his door in a pattern only a trained dog would know. Ryan didn't think. He grabbed the dog and her pups and pulled them inside, slamming the door against the howling wind. Snow scattered across his floorboards, melting instantly near the wood stove. The German shepherd stood rigid, shaking, ice cracking off her coat in sheets. The 3 pups collapsed at her feet, whimpering sounds so thin they barely registered as life. The smallest one wasn't breathing right. Ryan's training kicked in before his brain caught up. He scooped the tiny body into his hands, pale tan fur, barely 6 weeks old, ribs showing through paper-thin skin. The pup's chest fluttered irregularly, breaths shallow and stuttering. Hypothermia. Critical stage. He carried it to the wood stove, grabbed the wool blanket from the chair, his mother's last gift before cancer took her, and wrapped the pup tight. His hands worked fast, rubbing circulation back into tiny limbs, massaging the chest cavity the way Eleanor had taught him decades ago. "Come on," he muttered. "Come on, little one." The mother dog watched him with amber eyes that held something Ryan recognized, desperation wrapped in dignity. She'd traveled through hell to get here, and now her baby was dying in a stranger's hands. Ryan pressed the pup against his chest, his own body heat the only thing between this creature and death. He remembered Honey, Eleanor's trick for hypothermic animals, energy when they had nothing left to burn. He found the jar in the cabinet, warmed a dab between his fingers, and touched it to the pup's muzzle. Nothing. He tried again. "Please," he whispered. Not a prayer. He'd stopped believing in answered prayers the night Shadow died. The tiny tongue flicked. Once. Twice. The pup's body convulsed, then stilled, then, miracle or muscle memory, its breathing deepened. Steadied. The chest rose and fell in something resembling rhythm. Ryan exhaled. 45 minutes he'd been holding his breath without knowing it. He turned to the other 2 pups. One had a dark muzzle, already stronger, already trying to stand on wobbly legs. The other was medium-sized, gentle-faced, watching Ryan with curious eyes. He wrapped them both in towels, set them near the stove, checked for frostbite. Minor damage, nothing permanent. The mother hadn't moved. She stood between Ryan and her babies, every muscle coiled, ready to fight if this human proved to be another danger in a long line of dangers. But she was swaying. Exhaustion. Starvation. Her ribs showed through her coat, like prison bars. Ryan filled a bowl with water, another with the elk jerky he'd made last fall. Set them on the floor. Backed away. "It's okay," he said quietly. "You're safe here." The dog didn't believe him. Why would she? That's when the snowmobile engine roared outside. Ryan's hand went to the rifle by the door, instinct, but stopped when he heard the knock. 3 firm raps. Human. Purposeful. He opened it to find Margaret Carter standing on his porch, snow-covered, holding a medical kit. "Saw your lights," she said without preamble. "You never have lights on this late. Figured something was wrong." Maggie was 42, lived 3 miles away, closest neighbor in this godforsaken stretch of mountain. Former veterinarian. Former because 3 years ago she'd made a mistake while grieving her dead firefighter husband, and a cat had died under her care, and the lawsuit had taken everything. Her license, her practice, her will to do much besides survive. Ryan and Maggie had exchanged maybe 50 words in the year he'd lived here, polite nods when their trucks passed on the access road. That was the extent of their relationship. But when she saw the dogs, her face changed. Professional assessment, instant and clinical. She was inside before Ryan could speak, kneeling beside the pups, hands already moving with practiced precision. "Hypothermia," she said. "Severe malnutrition. This one," she touched the smallest, "might have pneumonia." She examined the mother next, fingers gentle but thorough. "Breeding scars, multiple litters. Recent birth." She looked up at Ryan. "Where did you find them?" "They found me." Maggie examined the K9 collar, read the tag. Her expression shifted. "Luna, she went missing 8 months ago. County impound." Just vanished. I know. You know her? I know of her. She worked narcotics. Different unit. Maggie sat back on her heels, staring at the dog, then at Ryan. She walked 15 miles through a blizzard to find you specifically. Why? Ryan didn't have an answer. He looked at Luna, at her amber eyes holding his gaze with something that felt like recognition, like trust, like a message he couldn't decode. I don't know, he admitted. They worked together through the night. Maggie had supplies in her kit, antibiotics, fluids, warming packs. She worked with the quiet competence of someone who'd done this 1,000 times, who couldn't help but be what she was, even after the world told her she wasn't allowed to be it anymore. At dawn, Luna disappeared. Ryan woke in the chair to find the door somehow opened, the mother dog gone. Panic flooded him. The pups were still here, still alive, but their mother had vanished into the cold. He grabbed his coat, ready to search, when Luna returned through the dog door he'd forgotten existed. In her mouth, 2 dead rabbits. She dropped them at Ryan's feet, looked at him once, then went to her pups and curled around them protectively. Maggie, awake now, stared. She hunted, in 40 below temperatures, brought food for her babies. Ryan knelt, examined the kills. Clean neck breaks. Professional. Luna had survived 8 months alone, kept 3 pups alive in conditions that should have killed them all. This wasn't just survival. This was will made flesh. Ryan cleaned the rabbits, field training never left him, cut small pieces for the pups. Luna watched him work, her amber eyes softer now. Trusting. When he finished, she placed her head on his knee, just for a moment, just long enough for Ryan to feel the weight of something he'd thought was dead forever. Connection. By mid-morning, the storm had eased to a sullen whisper. Maggie examined Luna's collar more closely, turning it in the weak sunlight filtering through the cabin's ice-crusted window. The leather was old K9 unit standard issue, worn but functional. She found the serial number stamped near the buckle. K9MT 2019-047, she read aloud. Montana State Police, Narcotics Division. Ryan moved closer, squinting at the tag. Recognition flickered. Luna. She was handled by Officer David Chen. Worked airports mostly, drug detection. He rubbed his face, trying to pull details from the fog of the past year. Last I heard, she was retired early. Health issues or something. That was May, I think. 8 months ago, Maggie said quietly. Ryan's laptop sat buried under unopened mail on the table. He dug it out, powered it on. The satellite internet connection crawled, but eventually a search pulled up a news article from the Whitefish Pilot dated May 20th, 2024. Police K9 Luna missing from county impound. He read aloud. A Montana State Police narcotics detection dog vanished from the county impound facility overnight. Luna, a 4-year-old German Shepherd, was being held for a routine health evaluation when she disappeared. No signs of forced entry were found. The investigation remains ongoing. Maggie leaned over his shoulder. That's not a dog running away. That's a dog being taken. While Ryan scrolled through follow-up articles, sparse, mostly dead ends, Maggie returned to Luna. She'd brought her old vet kit, the one she'd kept in her truck for 3 years despite having no legal right to use it anymore. Inside, buried under bandages and expired antibiotics, was a microchip scanner. Hold her still, Maggie said. Luna tensed, but allowed it. The scanner beeped. Numbers flashed across the small screen. Maggie's face went pale. What? Ryan asked. She's chipped, registered and everything. Maggie turned the scanner so Ryan could see. But look at the ownership record. It was transferred. May 20th, 2024. 2 days after she went missing. Transferred to who? Montana Timber Holdings, LLC. Ryan stared at the screen. A timber company bought a police dog? Legally, according to this, sale price, $1,500. The air in the cabin felt suddenly thin. Luna hadn't run away. She'd been stolen and sold. The paperwork made it legal, made it invisible. A K-9 officer reduced to livestock, bought and sold like equipment. Maggie set the scanner down. You need to report this. I'm not a cop anymore. Then call someone who is. Ryan looked at Luna, at her scars, at the way she kept herself between him and her pups even now. He thought about Shadow, about the night he died, about the official report that said killed in the line of duty, but never explained why a suspect would shoot a dog during a drug bust. He thought about 11 months of isolation, of grief that had calcified into something hard and permanent. This isn't my problem, he said, but the words felt hollow even as he spoke them. Maggie studied him with those gray eyes that had seen too much. Then whose problem is it? Luna came to you. Before Ryan could answer, a memory surfaced, sharp and unwelcome. 2019, spring. The K-9 training facility in Helena. Ryan had driven down with Shadow for a joint exercise. Different units training together, building coordination. That's where he'd met Officer David Chen and his new dog, a 2-year-old German Shepherd just finishing certification. This is Luna, Chen had said, pride evident in his voice. Best nose I've ever seen. Found 3 kilos of fentanyl in a semi-truck last week, hidden inside the axle housing. Shadow and Luna had played together after the exercise. Ryan remembered watching them, noting how similar they looked. Same build, same facial structure, same intelligent amber eyes. Chen had joked, "Think they're related? Siblings, maybe?" Ryan had laughed it off. Hadn't thought about it again. Until now. He looked at Luna, then at the photo of Shadow on the wall. The resemblance was undeniable once you knew to look for it. I need to visit someone, Ryan said abruptly. Maggie frowned. Who? My grandmother. She'd know if... He trailed off, unsure how to finish the sentence. If what? If Luna and Shadow are family. The drive to Whispering Pines Memory Care took 30 minutes on roads still treacherous with ice. Ryan's truck fishtailed twice. He hadn't been here in 6 months. Guilt sat in his stomach like spoiled meat. The facility smelled like institutional disinfectant and failure. The nurse at the front desk looked up, surprise flickering across her face. Mr. Sullivan, your grandmother asks about you every day. Each word was a knife. Ryan managed a nod and walked to Eleanor's room. She sat in a wheelchair by the window, staring at nothing. The room was small, sterile, generic furniture bolted to the walls. One personal item, a photo from 1975 showing a young Eleanor with a German Shepherd, both of them looking at the camera with matching expressions of quiet competence. Grandma? Ryan's voice cracked. It's Ryan. Eleanor turned. Her eyes, faded blue, clouded with confusion, searched his face. Ryan? She frowned. Or James? You look like my James. James, Ryan's father, dead 20 years. It's Ryan, Grandma, your grandson. The confusion deepened, then flickered, something like recognition. Have you brought Shadow? He's late for training. Ryan's throat tightened. Grandma, Shadow's gone. Eleanor's expression sharpened suddenly. The fog lifted. Her eyes focused with startling clarity. Which Shadow, honey? Ryan blinked. What? I trained 3 Shadows in my life. Eleanor's voice was steady now, lucid. 1975, 1998, 2018, same breeding line, McBride Kennels in Helena. Best working dogs in Montana. Ryan pulled out his phone, showed her a photo of Luna. Do you know her? Eleanor's face transformed. Luna, that's Luna. She reached for the phone, fingers trembling. I trained her mother, and her grandmother before that. And Shadow? My Shadow? Eleanor gripped his hand with surprising strength. Luna and your Shadow were littermates, brother and sister, born April 2018. I helped deliver them. Shadow went to state police. Luna went to narcotics. The cabin seemed to tilt. Ryan sat down hard in the visitor's chair. She came to you because she knows, Eleanor continued, her lucidity holding like a gift that might vanish any second. Dogs always know family. Shadow died protecting you. Now, Luna needs you to protect her. Tears Ryan hadn't shed in 11 months finally came. Eleanor held his hand while he broke. Shadow didn't die because you failed him, she whispered. He died doing what he was born to do. And Luna, she needs you to do what you were born to do. What's that? Protect those who can't protect themselves. That's what Sullivan men do. Eleanor's eyes began to cloud again. The lucidity was fading. Ryan? Her voice uncertain now. Tell Shadow I said be a good boy. I will, Grandma. I will. The nurse met him at the door. That's the most lucid she's been in 3 months, she said softly. You should visit more. The guilt was a living thing now, teeth and claws. Ryan drove back through the snow, hands shaking on the wheel. Luna had walked 15 miles through hell to find him. Not randomly, not by accident. She'd found her brother's partner. She'd found family, and she was trying to tell him something. Back at the cabin, Ryan and Maggie worked in the blue glow of his laptop screen while the pups slept by the fire. Luna remained restless, pacing between the window and her babies, ears swiveling toward the northwest like a compass needle finding true north. Montana Timber Holdings, LLC, Maggie read from the screen. Registered in 2022. Owner, Curtis James Brennan. Business address matches an old sawmill 3 miles from here. She clicked through pages. Multiple OSHA violations in 2023. Complaints from neighbors about noise and smell. Shut down twice for environmental concerns. Reopened after paying fines. Ryan leaned closer. Property records show a main building, warehouse, and... He stopped. Kennels, added to the property survey in 2023. Why would a timber company need kennels? They searched for Curtis Brennan next. Public records painted a picture Ryan wished he hadn't seen, age 45, former mechanic. Married to Diane Brennan, 1 son. Thomas Brennan, born 2012, died 2020. Cause of death, leukemia, age 8. The bankruptcy filing came next. Filed March 2021. Medical debt, $340,000. Maggie read the details aloud, her voice softening. Insurance covered $60,000. They sold their house, both cars. Still couldn't cover it. She scrolled further. Diane filed for divorce in October 2021. Custody wasn't an issue because she didn't finish. Didn't need to. Ryan stared at the photo attached to an old news article about childhood cancer fundraisers. Curtis Brennan stood beside a hospital bed, holding the hand of a small boy with no hair and a smile too big for his thin face. The caption read, Tommy Brennan, 8, fighting leukemia with his father Curtis by his side. He lost everything, Ryan said quietly. His son, his wife, his home. And now he's running a puppy mill, Maggie added. But her tone carried no judgment, just sadness. Ryan found more. After 2021, Curtis Brennan vanished from public records. No employment history, no address. Then in 2022, Montana Timber Holdings appeared, and Brennan resurfaced as its owner. "He's not just breeding dogs," Ryan said, studying the complaints from neighbors. "Look at this report. Excessive barking at all hours, chemical smell inconsistent with timber processing. And this one, witnessed dogs being transported in unmarked vans." Maggie's face hardened. Luna didn't escape from a breeding operation. She escaped from something worse. Ryan thought about Luna's scars, her fear responses, the way she'd traveled 15 miles through deadly cold rather than stay wherever she'd been. He thought about Shadow, about the night he died, about questions he'd never asked because grief had made him stupid. "I'm going to check it out," he said. "Tomorrow morning when the storm breaks." "I'm coming with you, Maggie." "I'm coming," she repeated, her voice carrying the weight of 3 years spent watching animals suffer while her license collected dust. "You'll need someone who knows what to look for. Signs of abuse, medical neglect. I can document it." Ryan wanted to argue. Instead, he nodded. They spent the evening preparing. Ryan cleaned his old service weapon, hands moving through the familiar ritual of checking the chamber, the magazine, the sight alignment. He hadn't touched it in 11 months. The weight felt foreign and familiar all at once. Maggie packed her medical kit, bandages, antibiotics, syringes, everything she'd need for emergency animal care. Illegal, yes, but she'd stopped caring about legal versus right a long time ago. Around midnight, while Maggie dozed in the chair and the pups slept in their nest of blankets, Ryan stood at the window watching the storm. Luna came to stand beside him, her warmth pressing against his leg. "What happened to you out there, girl?" he whispered. Luna looked up at him, then back out the window, toward the northwest, toward whatever hell she'd escaped from. That's when she left. Just turned and padded to the corner where Ryan kept his gear, old police equipment he couldn't bring himself to throw away. She nosed through it, deliberate, searching. Then she returned with something in her mouth. She dropped it at Ryan's feet. A small brass tag, worn and scratched, but readable in the firelight. "Shadow, K9 Unit." Ryan's breath stopped. He picked up the tag with shaking hands. "Where did you get this?" Luna stared at him, then back at the window. At the darkness hiding the sawmill 3 miles away. The implications crashed over him like cold water. Shadow's tag, at the sawmill. Luna had been there. She'd found it. She'd brought it to him. Shadow's death wasn't what he'd been told. Couldn't be. Maggie woke to find Ryan sitting on the floor, the tag clutched in his fist, tears running down his face he didn't bother to wipe away. "Ryan?" "Shadow," he managed. "He was there, at the mill." Luna found his tag. They left at first light. The storm had eased to a bitter wind, temperature still hovering around 42 below. Ryan and Maggie rode his snowmobile, both bundled in layers that made movement difficult. Luna tried to follow, but Ryan commanded her to stay, to guard the pups. She obeyed with visible reluctance, watching from the porch as they disappeared into the white. The sawmill appeared after 25 minutes of hard riding. From 200 yards away it looked abandoned. Collapsed roof sections, broken windows, snow drifted high against the walls, but fresh tire tracks cut through the snow, and thin smoke rose from the warehouse chimney. Someone was here. They approached on foot, Ryan leading with the careful precision of 12 years' training. The wind covered their sounds. They circled to the warehouse's back entrance, where Ryan found a new lock on an old door, shiny steel against rusted hinges. Inside, they could hear barking, faint but distinct, multiple dogs. "I'm going in," Ryan whispered. "You stay here. 20 minutes. If I'm not out, get help." "Ryan, please." Maggie's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Ryan worked the lock. It took 3 minutes and a tension wrench he'd kept from his patrol days, but it gave. He slipped inside, letting his eyes adjust to the darkness. The warehouse was exactly what it pretended to be up front. Stacks of timber, processing equipment, the legitimate face of a legitimate business. But plastic sheeting divided the space. Behind it, barking intensified. Ryan parted the curtain. 12 metal cages lined the back wall. 8 were occupied. German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, 1 Rottweiler. All thin, all dirty, some with visible injuries. The smell hit him. Waste, fear, chemical disinfectant that couldn't mask the underlying rot. His hands moved automatically, photographing everything with his phone. Evidence, chain of custody. The cop in him wasn't as dead as he'd thought. A desk stood against the far wall. On it, a logbook. Ryan flipped it open. Detailed records. Acquisitions listed by date, breed, source. Sales records showing puppies sold for $2,000 to $5,000 each. 6 months of operation. Total earnings, $187,000. Ryan turned pages, looking for Luna. Page 47. Luna, German Shepherd. Acquired 05/18/24. Source, County Impound. High-value breeding female, K9 genetics. Litter, 1. 6 pups, sold $24,000. Litter, 2. 4 pups, sold $16,000. Litter, 3. 3 pups, escaped. 12/25. Notes. Must recover. High value loss. Ryan's vision blurred. Luna had been here 8 months. Forced to breed. 3 litters. The pups she'd brought to his cabin were her third and final escape. She'd gotten them out and run 15 miles through hell to the only safe place she knew, to family. He turned the page, found a second section. Special acquisitions, K9 targets, a list of police dogs, names, units, handlers, targeted for theft because K9 genetics commanded premium prices in the breeding market. Ryan's hands shook as he read down the list. Then he saw it. Shadow, German Shepherd, target, date 03/01/24. Status, failed acquisition, dog deceased, notes, handler interfered, dog fought back, unviable for capture, loss, $15,000 potential value. The warehouse spun. Ryan gripped the desk to stay upright. Shadow wasn't killed during a drug bust. Shadow was targeted for kidnapping. The suspect he'd chased that night wasn't a suspect at all. It was bait, a trap. They'd tried to tranquilize Shadow, take him, sell him into this hell. But Shadow had fought, had escaped, had made it back to Ryan despite his wounds. Shadow hadn't died because of Ryan's command. Shadow had died protecting himself from being stolen, had died a hero fighting slavers. Every molecule of guilt Ryan had carried for 11 months shattered and reformed into something else, something colder, something that tasted like rage. He heard the diesel engine outside too late. The door opened. Curtis Brennan stepped inside, rifle in hand, and their eyes met across the warehouse floor. Ryan stepped from behind the equipment, hands visible, empty. Curtis Brennan. The rifle swung toward him. Brennan was tall and gaunt, his face wind-burned and carved with lines too deep for .45. A scar ran from his mouth to his left temple, pale against weathered skin. His eyes were the color of ice over deep water, pale blue and empty. "Who the hell are you?" Brennan's voice was hoarse, like he'd forgotten how to use it for anything but commands to animals. "Ryan Sullivan, former Montana State Police K9 unit." Ryan kept his hands where Brennan could see them. "I'm not armed. Just want to talk." Recognition flickered across Brennan's face. "Shadow's handler. I remember the news when your dog died." He kept the rifle trained on Ryan's chest. "What are you doing in my warehouse?" You killed him. I didn't kill anybody. Your people tried to kidnap him. He fought back. Died from the wounds. Ryan's voice was steady, cold. I read your logbook. Failed acquisition, dog deceased. That's my partner you're talking about. Brennan's jaw tightened. They weren't supposed to use lethal force, just tranquilizers, clean extraction. Your dog wasn't supposed to die. But he did. Yeah, he did. Something cracked in Brennan's voice. Cost me $15,000 in lost revenue. Ryan took a step forward. The rifle came up higher. Don't. Why? Ryan asked. Why any of this? Brennan's eyes slid to the wall behind his desk where a photo hung, slightly crooked, covered in dust. A man and a small boy at a hospital. The boy bald from chemotherapy, smiling too big for his thin face. You want to know why? Brennan lowered the rifle slightly, just enough to walk to the photo. He touched it with his free hand, fingers trembling. That's why, Tommy, my son. Ryan had seen the records, but hearing Brennan say the name made it real in a way Data couldn't. 8 years old, Brennan continued, his voice taking on the hollow quality of a story told too many times. Leukemia, diagnosed in 2019. We thought we had time, thought insurance would cover it. Then the bills came, $400,000. Insurance paid $60,000. We sold the house, both cars, everything. Still couldn't cover it. He turned to face Ryan, and the man's eyes were wet. Diane left, my wife, said she couldn't watch me destroy myself trying to save a boy who was already gone. Maybe she was right. Tommy died in 2020. 8 years old, in pain, begging me to make it stop, and I couldn't do anything. I'm sorry, Ryan said, and meant it. You know what Tommy wanted for his birthday? His 8th birthday? Brennan's voice broke. A puppy, a German shepherd, like the police dogs. We couldn't afford it. Couldn't afford anything by then. I told him we'd get one after he was better, after the treatments. He laughed, bitter and raw. He never got better. Ryan thought about grief, about the way it twisted people into shapes they didn't recognize. He'd spent 11 months letting it hollow him out. Brennan had spent 4 years letting it turn him into this. After Tommy died, I had nothing, Brennan continued. No money, no family, no reason to wake up. Then I met some people. Bad people who knew how to make money. They taught me about breeding, about the black market for canine genetics. Proven working lines sell for premium prices, $5,000 per pup. So you started stealing police dogs. I started with retired canines. Legal purchases. Made $40,000 the first year, but it wasn't enough. It's never enough. The debt collectors don't care that your son is dead. So I started acquiring. Luna was easy. Night guard at the impound was drunk. Walked right in. And Shadow? Brennan's face hardened. Shadow was supposed to be my biggest score. Prime genetics, young, strong. I hired men to lure him away during your patrol, tranquilize him, bring him back clean, but he fought, killed one of their dogs, nearly killed one of the men. They panicked, used lethal force. By the time I heard about it, Shadow was already dead at your station. The rage Ryan had been holding back surged. You're sorry? My partner is dead because you wanted money. Your partner? Brennan shouted back, rifle shaking. What about my son? You got to say goodbye to your dog. I never got to say goodbye to Tommy. He died in pain, begging, and I couldn't do anything. The world took my son and laughed in my face. So I took from the world. I took what I needed. The words echoed in the warehouse. The dogs in their cages had gone silent, sensing the violence thick in the air. Ryan's hand moved slowly toward his jacket. Curtis, don't. I'm not reaching for a weapon. I'm reaching for something I want to show you. Brennan's eyes narrowed, but he didn't shoot. Ryan pulled out the photo he'd been carrying since yesterday. Tommy's picture from the news article, the one showing a father and son during better days. "I found this in the records," Ryan said quietly. "Public archives from fundraisers. Tommy looks like a good kid. Brave." Brennan's face crumpled. "He was. God, he was so brave. Do you think this is what he'd want? You torturing animals to make money off his memory? Don't you dare." "He wanted a puppy because he loved dogs," Ryan pressed. "And you're keeping them in cages, breeding them until they break. Luna gave birth to 3 litters in 8 months. That's not breeding. That's torture." Brennan looked at the cages for the first time like he was actually seeing them. The thin bodies, the scared eyes, the filth. His face went pale. "Oh God," he whispered. "What have I done?" The door behind Ryan crashed open. Maggie stood there, and she wasn't alone. Luna had followed her, breaking Ryan's command to stay. The dog pushed past Maggie and ran straight into the warehouse. Brennan saw her and something snapped. You cost me $15,000. He raised the rifle toward Luna. Ryan stepped between them. "No. You want to shoot someone? Shoot me. Move." "She's not property, Curtis. She's a life, like Shadow was, like Tommy was." Luna growled low, positioning herself between Ryan and Brennan, but not attacking. Protecting. Maggie moved forward slowly, hands visible. "Mr. Brennan, my name is Margaret Carter. I lost my husband 5 years ago. Firefighter. He ran into a burning building and never came out." Brennan's eyes flicked to her, but the rifle stayed up. "I know what grief does," Maggie continued, her voice steady and gentle. "How it makes you think hurting others will ease your own pain. I spent 3 years making mistakes because of it. Lost my career, my license, nearly lost myself. But hurting others didn't help." "It never does." Brennan's hand shook on the rifle. He looked from Luna to Ryan to Maggie, then back at the photo of Tommy on the wall. Tears ran down his face into his beard. "Tommy's last words to me," he said, voice breaking completely, "were, 'Love you, Daddy. Be good.' And I became this. I broke my son's last wish." The rifle lowered, not dropped, but lowered. Brennan's whole body sagged. "Take her," he said. "Take all of them. I'm done." Ryan stepped forward carefully. "You need to turn yourself in." "I know." "We'll call the sheriff. Document everything. The dogs will be taken care of." Brennan nodded, but he was barely present anymore. Just a hollow man who'd finally seen himself clearly and couldn't bear the reflection. Luna approached Brennan slowly, sat in front of him, not threatening, just watching with those amber eyes that had seen too much. Brennan looked down at her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Then the mountain groaned. A sound like the earth tearing itself apart. Ryan's head snapped toward the window as understanding hit avalanche. Ryan's old police radio crackled to life on his belt, cutting through the warehouse with sudden urgency. Static, then a voice. "All units, avalanche warning, northwest sector, immediate evacuation." The transmission broke apart, reformed. "Snow shelf unstable. Estimated 15 to 20 minutes. All personnel evacuate immediately." Ryan's blood went cold. They were in the northwest sector, directly under the mountain's shadow. "We need to leave," he said. "Now." Maggie looked at the cages, at 8 dogs staring at them with desperate eyes. "What about them?" "The snowmobile fits 3 people, maybe 4 with the dogs." Ryan's mind raced through calculations that had no good answers. "We can't take them all." Brennan stepped forward, setting his rifle against the wall. "Go. I'll release them. You're coming with us. Your snowmobile can't carry 12 people and 8 dogs. You know it." "I know it. We'll make 2 trips. There's no time." Brennan was already moving to the cages, fumbling with keys. Get out. Take what you can. I'll free the rest. Ryan grabbed his arm. Curtis, you'll die. Brennan looked at him with eyes that had already made peace with the idea. I didn't save Tommy. Couldn't do anything while he suffered. Maybe I can save them. Maybe that's worth something. The mountain groaned again, louder, closer. Through the window, Ryan could see the snow shelf beginning to crack, a dark line spreading across the white like a wound opening. 10 minutes, maybe less. Ryan! Maggie was already opening cages. We have to move. Luna bolted to the nearest cage, a German shepherd cowering in the back. She barked, not aggressive but commanding, herding. Her canine training cutting through 8 months of trauma. The dog responded, crawling forward. Ryan and Maggie worked frantically, opening cages, coaxing terrified dogs toward the door. Brennan released the rest, shoving them toward freedom with more force than gentleness, but there was no time for careful handling. Dogs scattered in panic. Some bolted for the door immediately, others froze, too traumatized to understand they were being saved. Luna moved between them, nipping at haunches, driving them forward with the precision of a working dog remembering her purpose. Ryan grabbed the 2 smallest, a Belgian Malinois puppy and an elderly German shepherd too weak to run. Maggie took a limping Rottweiler. 3 dogs followed Luna toward the exit. That made 7 out of 8. The last dog, a scarred German shepherd with a missing ear, refused to leave its cage. Shaking, pressed into the corner, broken beyond immediate repair, Brennan knelt before it. Go on, girl. Get out. Run. The dog didn't move. Ryan, go! Maggie screamed from the doorway. Ryan looked back at Brennan. Their eyes met. In that moment, Ryan saw not a criminal, not a monster, but a father who'd lost everything and was trying, at the very end, to find redemption in the only way he had left. Tell Tommy, Brennan said quietly. Tell him Daddy tried to fix it. Tell him I tried to be good at the end. Curtis, go! Brennan shoved Ryan toward the door. Ryan stumbled out into the killing cold, dogs streaming past him, Maggie already at the snowmobile loading the ones who couldn't run. Ryan looked back once, saw Brennan through the window, still kneeling by that last cage, whispering something to a dog too broken to save itself. The mountain screamed. Ryan ran. 50 yards. 100. The snowmobile engine roared to life under Maggie. Dogs leaped onto it, onto Ryan, onto each other. Overloaded, struggling, but moving. 200 yards. 300. The crack sounded like the world breaking. Ryan looked back and saw the snow shelf collapse. A white wall 40 feet high, moving at 80 miles an hour, consuming everything in its path. The warehouse disappeared in seconds. Wood splintered like matchsticks. Metal shrieked and died. The sound was apocalyptic, final. Then silence. The avalanche settled into a new landscape. Where the warehouse had been, there was only snow. Deep and smooth and blank, like nothing had ever existed there at all. Maggie was crying. Luna howled, long and mournful, a sound that carried across the frozen wasteland. The other dogs joined her. A funeral sung in a language older than words. Ryan stood in the snow, numb. Curtis Brennan was gone, dead at 45. Redeemed or damned, Ryan didn't know. Later, as they prepared to leave, Ryan spotted something half buried in the snow near where the warehouse had been. He walked over, knelt, and pulled it free. Tommy's photo. The one from Brennan's wall, somehow thrown clear by the blast. The boy's smile, still bright, still innocent. Behind the photo, tucked into the frame, a note in Brennan's handwriting. The paper was worn soft, like it had been read 1,000 times. Tommy, be a good man. Love, Daddy. Dated December 2020, the month Tommy died. A father's last wish for his son. A promise Brennan had broken for 4 years, then tried to keep in his final moments. Ryan pocketed the photo. He would make sure Tommy Brennan wasn't just remembered as the son of a criminal. He'd tell the truth, that Tommy inspired his father's final act of courage. 7 dogs had escaped. 1 had chosen to stay. Curtis Brennan had died freeing them all. The cabin was chaos when they returned. 10 dogs in a space meant for 1 man. Luna's 3 pups were stronger now, tumbling over each other by the fire. The 6 rescued dogs huddled together, uncertain, traumatized, but alive. Ryan reported everything to Sheriff Tom Whitaker, who arrived 3 hours later with animal control and 2 deputies. The avalanche had made the site unreachable. Brennan's body, what remained of the warehouse, all of it buried under 40 feet of snow. Recovery would wait until spring thaw. "You did good work, Sullivan," the sheriff said, loading dogs into the animal control van. "Saved these animals. Documented the operation. We'll investigate the full scope of Brennan's network." Ryan didn't feel like he'd done good work. He felt like he'd watched a broken man choose death over facing what he'd become. The story hit local news that evening. Former K-9 officer rescues dogs from illegal breeding operation. By morning, it had gone statewide. By afternoon, national outlets were calling. Ryan Sullivan, the cop who quit after his dog died, returns to save other dogs from criminal operation. They made him a hero. Ryan knew better. That evening, his phone rang. Whispering Pines Memory Care. Eleanor had an episode. Ryan drove through the dark with dread sitting heavy in his chest. He found his grandmother in bed, small and confused, calling for someone named Shadow over and over. The nurse met him at the door with tired eyes. "She's been like this for 3 hours. We can't calm her down." Ryan sat beside Eleanor's bed and took her hand. "Grandma, it's Ryan." Her eyes found his face but didn't recognize it. "Where's Shadow? He's late for training." "He's never late." "Grandma, Shadow's gone." Eleanor's face crumpled. Then, like clouds parting, clarity flickered in her eyes. She gripped his hand with surprising strength. "No, honey. Shadow's never gone. Look." She pointed to the window. Ryan turned and saw Luna sitting in the snow outside, watching the building with patient alertness. "Shadow sent her," Eleanor whispered, lucid now, "his sister, to watch over you. He's still protecting you." Ryan's throat closed. "Can I bring her up? Just for a minute?" The nurse hesitated, then nodded. Rules bent for dying women. Ryan brought Luna to Eleanor's room. His grandmother's hands touched the dog's face, and Luna stood perfectly still, accepting the blessing. "Hello, beautiful girl," Eleanor murmured. She spoke commands in German, old K-9 language from her training days. Luna responded to each one, muscle memory from puppyhood cutting through everything that had happened since. Eleanor looked at Ryan, her eyes clearer than they'd been in months. "Ryan, I'm forgetting your father, forgetting Shadow, forgetting you." "I know, Grandma, but I remember this. Sullivan men protect. That's what we do. Shadow protected you. Now you protect her." She squeezed his hand. "Promise me." "I promise." Eleanor's eyes were already clouding again, the lucidity fading like morning frost. "Who are you again, young man?" The nurse touched Ryan's shoulder gently. "Her decline is accelerating. Could be weeks, could be days." "I'll visit every day," Ryan said. He meant it this time. 2 days later, Sheriff Whitaker called. "We recovered something from the avalanche site. Edge of the debris field. You should see it." Ryan drove to the sheriff's office. Whitaker handed him an evidence bag containing Shadow's collar. The leather was frozen, cracked but intact, and attached to it was something Ryan had never seen before. A miniature camera, body cam backup unit, standard issue for K9s but rarely checked unless needed. "Been in the cold for 11 months, Whitaker said. "Tech says the card might still be readable." They loaded the footage in Whitaker's office. Ryan's hands shook as the video started. Date stamp, March 3, 2024. The night Shadow died. The camera showed Shadow's point of view, running through dark woods, Ryan's voice crackling over radio. "Shadow! Track! Find him!" Shadow pursued a figure through the trees. The figure stopped, turned, held out meat. Shadow approached cautiously. Then 4 men emerged from hiding. A tranquilizer dart hit Shadow's flank. He staggered, but didn't go down, his body fighting the drug through sheer will. Catchpoles came out. Shadow fought. The camera showed him taking down 2 men, heard their screams. A third pulled a knife. "Forget the trank. Kill it. Boss wants it alive. Worth 15,000. Shadow broke free, started running. The camera shook with each labored step. Audio picked up Ryan's distant voice. "Shadow, come!" Shadow pushed toward that voice despite the wounds, despite the blood. The last frame showed station lights ahead, then the camera went dark as Shadow collapsed. Audio continued. Ryan's voice broken. "No, no, no, stay with me, boy. Please." Shadow's labored breathing. A small whine, the sound of a tongue against skin. One last kiss. Then silence. Ryan sat in the sheriff's office and wept. Not from grief this time, but from understanding. Shadow hadn't died because of Ryan's command. Shadow had been ambushed, had fought off kidnappers, had escaped, and had chosen to return to his partner. Shadow died a hero, fighting slavers, coming home. "He was trying to get back to you," Whitaker said quietly. "Made it, too. You didn't fail him, Sullivan. He didn't fail you. You were partners to the end." Ryan held Shadow's collar, felt the weight of 11 months of unnecessary guilt lifting. He'd carried it so long it had become part of him. Now, watching it go, he felt lighter and more raw at the same time. "Can I keep this?" he asked, holding up the collar. "It's evidence, but—" Whitaker nodded. "Yeah, take it. Shadow would want you to have it." Ryan drove back to the cabin with the collar on the passenger seat and Luna beside him in the truck. She rested her head on his leg, and he kept one hand on her fur the whole way home. Shadow had sent his sister to save him. Now Ryan understood why. Luna hadn't just escaped to survive. She'd found Ryan to tell him the truth the only way she could, by bringing him to the place where that truth was buried. 3 days after the avalanche, they held a funeral for Curtis Brennan. 8 people attended. His ex-wife Diane came from Missoula, the first time she'd seen Curtis in 4 years. Ryan brought Luna. Maggie stood beside him. Sheriff Whitaker, 2 deputies, and a pastor who'd never met Brennan delivered a generic eulogy about God's mercy. Diane approached Ryan after the service, her face lined with a grief that looked old and permanent. "You're the officer who found everything." "Yes, ma'am." "Curtis wasn't always—" She paused, searching for words. "He was good once, before Tommy died. He was kind, funny, a good father." Her voice broke. "Tommy's death destroyed him." "I know. The sheriff said Curtis died freeing the dogs. Is that true?" Ryan thought about those final moments in the warehouse, about a broken man kneeling before a cage, whispering to a dog too traumatized to save itself. "He died doing something Tommy would have been proud of." Diane's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for saying that. I needed to hear it." The gravestone was modest. Curtis James Brennan, 1980 to 2025, beloved father of Thomas. No mention of crimes. Ryan had made that call with the sheriff. Let Brennan be remembered as Tommy's father, not as what grief had twisted him into. The decision sparked controversy. Local papers ran editorials. Social media exploded with debate. Hero or villain, criminal or victim of circumstance? The comment sections became battlegrounds. Ryan ignored them all. He'd seen Curtis Brennan's face at the end. That was enough. A week later, Sheriff Whitaker called with unexpected news. Brennan had a life insurance policy, $100,000. Beneficiary was listed as Tommy, but since Tommy's deceased, the policy defaults to his estate. Diane's entitled to it as next of kin. Ryan met with Diane at a coffee shop in Whitefish. She looked older than 43, worn down by years of grief and guilt. "I can't keep this money," she said, pushing the insurance documents across the table. "Curtis made it from terrible things, from hurting animals, from—" She couldn't finish. "What do you want to do with it?" "Give it away. Let it do good. For Tommy." She looked at Ryan, then at Maggie sitting beside him. "The sheriff said you're setting up a fund for retired canines, and Dr. Carter wants to open an animal sanctuary. Split it between you. $50,000 each." Ryan started to refuse. Maggie put her hand on his arm. "Please," Diane said. "Let Curtis's last money ease suffering instead of causing it. Let Tommy's name be attached to something good." Ryan accepted. Created the Shadow and Tommy Memorial Fund for retired police dogs needing medical care. The fund also covered 8 months of Eleanor's nursing home costs, buying Ryan time to breathe. Maggie combined her $50,000 with the settlement from her overturned malpractice case, $150,000 total, finally enough for her dream. She bought 40 acres outside Whitefish and started building Tommy's Hope Animal Sanctuary. The name made Diane cry when she heard it. Good tears for once. Ryan's complaint about Whispering Pines triggered a state investigation. The nursing home had been running a $2.4 million fraud scheme, billing families for services never provided. Multiple families got refunds. Ryan recovered $40,000 in overpayments. He caught up on cabin payments. The foreclosure notice went away. Through February and March, Ryan visited Eleanor 3 times a week. Brought Luna every time. The facility had stopped enforcing the no dogs rule after seeing how Eleanor responded to Luna's presence. Good days, Eleanor remembered everything. Talked about Ryan's father, about the dog she'd trained, about Shadow as a puppy. Bad days, she didn't recognize Ryan at all. Thought he was a stranger. Asked when her husband was coming to visit. Her decline accelerated. The doctors called it natural progression. Ryan called it heartbreaking. Then on March 15th, something remarkable happened. Eleanor woke up completely lucid, not confused, not lost, crystal clear. The nurses called it terminal lucidity, a documented phenomenon where dementia patients suddenly regain full cognitive function in their final days. Ryan brought Luna and the 3 pups, now 3 months old and full of energy. Eleanor sat in her wheelchair, eyes bright and focused. "Let's see if I still have it." She worked with the pups, commands in German, movements precise. The puppies responded beautifully, their genetics and Luna's early training combining with Eleanor's expertise. Frost, the one who'd nearly died that first night, was now the strongest. Storm remained bold and protective. Ember showed remarkable emotional intelligence. "They're naturals," Eleanor said, smiling, working line through and through. Afterward, she took Ryan's hand. "I don't have much time left, honey. Days, maybe. Grandma, hush. I'm 78. I've had a good run." Her grip tightened. "But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Keep training dogs. Keep the Sullivan legacy alive. Your great-grandfather trained police horses. Your grandfather trained military dogs. I trained K9s. Your father would have if he'd lived long enough." Her eyes held his. "Now it's your turn. Train these pups. Train others. Shadow and Luna, their family. Honor that." "I promise, Grandma." "Good." Eleanor leaned back, peaceful. "Now I can rest." She died that night in her sleep, Luna curled beside the bed, the 3 pups settled nearby. Eleanor's last sensation was her hand on Luna's head, her last words, "Good girl, good dogs, all good dogs." The Montana K9 unit gave Eleanor full honors at her funeral. 30 police dogs attended with their handlers, forming a corridor as her casket passed. A plaque honored her as pioneer of Montana K9 training. Eleanor Sullivan, 1947 to 2025. Mother of Montana police dogs. Ryan stood at her grave and made good on his promise. On April 1st, he returned to Montana State Police as K9 Training Director. Not field work. He couldn't handle that yet, maybe never. But training new handlers, overseeing the K9 program, teaching what Eleanor had taught him. His office held Shadow's collar on one wall, Luna's photo beside it. A reminder of what he was honoring. His first training class had 8 new K9 teams. Ryan's opening speech came from someplace raw and honest. A K9 partner isn't equipment, it's family. You will love your dog will love you, unconditionally. Some of you will lose your partner in the line of duty. It will destroy you. I know because it destroyed me." He paused. "But here's what I learned. Love doesn't stop. The bond doesn't break. Shadow died 13 months ago. I think about him every day. Then Luna came into my life and showed me love doesn't replace, it expands. Honor your dogs, trust them. And when the worst happens, remember they died doing what they loved, with who they loved." Luna became the program's demonstration dog, teaching new handlers proper commands and bonding techniques. She was gentle with rookie dogs, maternal with nervous pups, perfect for the role. The 3 pups were evaluated in April. Frost, tested for search and rescue, scored perfectly, placed with handler Maria Gonzalez. Storm, bold and protective, went to patrol work with handler Derek Johnson. Ember, the gentlest, became a therapy dog at the Veterans Hospital. 3 pups from a mother who'd survived hell, now serving and protecting. Eleanor would have been proud. By May, Maggie's sanctuary opened. Tommy's Hope Animal Sanctuary, 40 acres of second chances, medical clinic, rehabilitation kennels, training grounds, adoption center. Maggie's veterinary license had been reinstated in April after the state board reviewed her case and found the original investigation flawed. The 6 dogs from Brennan's warehouse became the sanctuary's first residents, along with 14 other rescues and 3 retired K9s with nowhere else to go. The sanctuary's mission statement hung in the lobby. Every animal deserves a second chance. Every person does too. This sanctuary stands as proof that broken things can heal. Named for Tommy Brennan, who loved dogs and never got his puppy. Now, hundreds of dogs will find homes in his memory. National media covered the story. Woman builds sanctuary with traffickers' insurance money. Comment sections debated the ethics. Maggie ignored the controversy. "I'm not profiting. The dogs are." Donations poured in. By summer, the sanctuary was thriving. Ryan and Maggie grew closer through it all. Not romantic, not yet. Too soon for both of them. But regular dinners at the cabin, joint training sessions, comfortable silences, and shared grief. Maybe someday it would become something more. For now, they were 2 broken people who'd saved each other, and that was enough. July 4th arrived warm and clear. The annual Independence Day ceremony at Whispering Pines honored deceased residents. Eleanor was remembered posthumously. Ryan spoke about family, about showing up, about love that survives even when memory fades. Afterward, he brought Luna and the 3 certified canines for a demonstration. Nursing home residents touched the dogs, smiled, remembered their own pets from younger days. One elderly woman wept. "I had a German shepherd named Rex. Best friend I ever had." Ryan brought Luna to her. "Would you like to meet Shadow's sister?" The woman's face transformed with pure joy. That evening, Ryan visited Eleanor's grave with Luna, Maggie, and the 3 pups. He placed flowers and spoke to the headstone like she could hear him. "We did it, Grandma. The pups are certified. Luna's training more. The Sullivan legacy continues." Luna sat beside the grave, alert and respectful. The pups mimicked their mother's behavior without being told. Maggie held Ryan's hand. Neither spoke. Some moments didn't need words. Later they drove to police headquarters. Shadow's memorial plaque hung in the lobby, but a second had been added below it. Luna's plaque, honoring her while she still lived. Canine Shadow, 2018 to 2024. Gave everything, asked for nothing, remembered forever. Canine Luna, sister of Shadow, survived everything, saved everyone, lived for love. Ryan touched both plaques, feeling the cool brass under his fingers. That night, they sat on the cabin porch, warm summer air, Luna between them. 6 foster dogs from the sanctuary playing in the yard. Fireflies danced over the grass. Mountains stood purple against the darkening sky. "Think Eleanor would be proud?" Maggie asked. Ryan smiled. "I think she's up there training dogs in heaven, teaching Shadow and Tommy to play fetch together." Maggie laughed. "Tommy finally got his puppy." "Yeah, he did." Luna rested her head on Ryan's boot. His hand found her fur automatically, the gesture as natural as breathing. For the first time in 2 years, Ryan felt genuinely happy. He thought about Shadow, about Eleanor, about Curtis Brennan and his son Tommy, about all the broken pieces that had somehow fitted together into something whole. Shadow had taught him about loyalty. Luna had taught him about survival. Eleanor had taught him about legacy. But the most important lesson came from a mother dog who walked 15 miles through a blizzard to find help. She taught him that no matter how broken you are, no matter how lost, there's always someone looking for you in the storm. You just have to open the door. Love, real love, never dies. It just changes shape. Shadow was gone, but his sister had found Ryan. His legacy lived on. Eleanor was gone, but her teachings continued. Curtis Brennan was gone, but Tommy's memory now saved lives. Endings weren't really endings. They were just new ways to love. The stars came out. Luna lifted her head and howled softly. The other dogs joined, a chorus under the Montana sky. Not mourning, celebrating. A pack song that said, "We are family." Ryan closed his eyes and listened. For the first time since Shadow died, he felt at peace. Sometimes the hardest thing about grief isn't the loss itself. It's the voice that whispers we could have done more, been better, saved them. Ryan carried that weight for 11 months, pushing away everyone who loved him, punishing himself for a failure that never happened. How many of us do the same? How many second chances do we miss because we're convinced we don't deserve them? Luna walked 15 miles through hell, not because Ryan was perfect, but because love doesn't demand perfection. She came to him broken, carrying babies she'd fought to protect, trusting that family would show up when it mattered. And Ryan, despite his pain, opened the door. That's the miracle we forget when we're drowning in regret. We're still here. We can still open doors, still choose to protect what's vulnerable, still honor the ones we've lost by loving what remains. Eleanor spent her final lucid moments not mourning what she'd forgotten, but celebrating what she could still give. That's the gift of a life well lived. Not perfection, but purpose. Not avoiding pain, but transforming it into something that heals others. What door have you been afraid to open? Who in your life showed you that kind of unconditional love? Share your story in the comments below. Let's remind each other that it's never too late to choose love over grief.